And welcome to Talk Truly, Truly Effortless Events podcast. My name is Ed, and today I have none other than the founder, the owner, the creator of Area 52 Studios, who actually where this podcast happens with me right now, John Gaston. John, welcome to the show.
Well, hello there, Ed. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great. There's a lot of things that I want to ask you, for one, let's go down the list with the obsession of Bigfoot, obsession of Star Wars, so many things, but probably the number one thing is what got you into doing what you do?
Oh, that's a long story. I'm not sure we have enough time for all that.
Well, you know what? Give me the short story.
Okay, so I've been in production for a little over 45 years, right? So it's not like it's new to me. It's not like 2 weeks ago I decided to become a TV guy or a podcasting guy. And back in the day, to be completely honest, back in the day, I was the guy that I didn't care if you were poor, rich, didn't matter. I'd take your money. I mean, literally take your money with no guarantees back in the day if it's going to work or not, right? So we were heavy producers. And I worked with some big guys like Kevin Harrington and Smitty and all those guys for infomercials. That's kind of where I really cut my teeth more than anywhere. And for years, I just took money and literally half the time, which anybody that's in the infomercial world knows that almost 92% of the time it's not going to work. So you're literally throwing money in there and it may not make you a dime, or you could lose your house, or you could lose your car, or you can go bankrupt because everybody kind of puts all their money into it now. And I didn't care. So the crash happened. Reality hit me. Lost everything in that crash, that financial crash. I mean, everything.
What year was that?
2009. When that financial crisis hit, it took out real estate. It took out the mortgage side of it, and the number 3 hit was production guys, TV guys. Our world got decimated. Not just me, but I mean all of them. So we all had to come back and go, okay, well, how do I fix this? How do I become less vulnerable to crashes like that?
Time to pivot.
Yeah, it is. So what we did is we decided to be more for the small guy, the small business owners. Big guys don't need my money, or they need my money, but they don't need our help, right? Those guys are like, I can survive. Coca-Cola, Budweiser, people like that. So we decided to work with the smaller business groups and our business people. And then, so from there, I noticed that my smaller guys couldn't really afford television. So for them to be on television was expensive. I mean, to run a good ad campaign on television, you're going to spend anywhere from $10,000 to $20,000 a month. So you better have $250,000 sitting in your coffers to be able to market correctly. You don't market just one time, and it's got to be a constant drip. So internet was there. We learned, we were the leading streamers back in 2005, 2006. We were doing it before anybody else was. So streaming world was not something that's been new. We embraced it back then. So we started our own television stations.
Wow.
And because the internet was, it's a no wall platform, which if you know anything about walls when it comes to social media and the internet, so Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all those are walls because you have to have a username and password to get in, right?
Yeah.
So what we did is we wanted to make it where there was no walls. And I tell people this all the time. If you don't have a website, you need a website. Because if you have a website, that means your people able to see you no matter where they're at, right? So we got into that and got into the TV world. We made it wide open to everybody. And my customers got a bigger bang for their buck. And then social media showed up. I remember, I still have a MySpace. And whether it works or not, I don't know, but I do have one, right? But that was a different company back then. And we started seeing that we'll use social media as a driver try to sell on social medias. It's just, that's not what we do. So as a good business, as a good business owner, you want to make sure that your money's working for you, not against you. So we leveraged social medias to drive people back to websites. And then the websites was the one where that's where your salesperson shows up, because it's a salesperson that's never angry, never hungover, never sick, doesn't call in sick. They're just always there and they're working for you. So that's how I got into it. So I wanted just to give my customers a better way to advertise and market themselves. And I could sleep at night knowing that I'm helping people.
What was your first job in production, though?
I was an audio tech for Arista Records.
Really?
Yeah. I cut my teeth coming out of college as an audio engineer. So I'm a double degrees. I have a degree in engineering and I have a degree. Well, I have it in the arts. I got the arts and science and arts of tech. So I told my counselor, I said, I either want to work in the industry of the audio video world, or I want to work on the pieces and parts of the audio world. So it's a one way or another, I was going to be in this world. That's where I wanted to be. So I came out and I was with Arista and Universal. I was always as a subcontractor. So I've kind of technically been self-employed almost my whole life. There's a couple of jobs where it got kind of weird and I had to go get some real work. But so yeah, I mean, I've traveled. I worked with all the major bands as an A2 in the back. And
now, what is an A2?
A2 is typically, that's the guy that runs the stage sound. So you have an A1 that sits out front. He runs the house. That's what everybody in the audience listens to.
He's the engineer, basically.
Yeah, sound engineer. So the A2 where I was at is I ran the stage sound. So I literally worked with the artist. And they would tell me, this is what we want to hear, less of this, more of that. And every mix was different depending on who the band was and who the artist was.
So you were in their ear.
They didn't have ears back then.
Oh,
I'm old, dude. Let me tell you something.
Well, when I'm saying in their ear, not necessarily their earbuds, but all their speakers. Yeah. Going back to them and going like, I need more over here.
Well, they would tell me, and that's all prep. That's all pre-prep. You don't do that during a show. That takes their mind off being an entertainer.
Yeah.
So all that stuff's done pre, right? So, and then I just happened to have a buddy that needed some help with a camera. And I mean, I did shows. I did audio shows for tons of people. Then I got in the video world. I had a buddy that had a production and needed a camera guy. I didn't know I was going to work camera that day. He said, just show up. And he put a camera in my hand. I'm like, I don't do this kind of thing. He goes, it's in stupid mode. Just go shoot. You think it's cool? Just go shoot. So I did. That's what I did. And then it was a 3-day show, 3-day event. And then I showed up the next morning and I kept looking up. I'm going, they do a sizzler reel every morning to get everybody excited for the event, right? And a lot of my shots were up there. He goes, dude, I don't know. He goes, you should be running a camera all the time. He goes, your shots are really good. I said, yeah, but it was in stupid mode. He goes, yeah, but the shots were good. The composition was good. Because anybody can point a camera. That's what's wrong with today's world. Everybody goes out and buys a DSLR camera, and now all of a sudden they're a filmmaker. I've seen those. I've seen that stuff. It's all about composition. It's all about shots. It's all putting about the story together. So anyway, so I did that, fell in love with video because audio is a very long, drawn-out process. To get a finished song takes a lot, right? There's just tracking, there's mixing, and then there's sweetening. And that's ultimately where I was. I was a sweetening engineer.
Yeah.
But I loved the video because it was like that.
Now, I've been in sound studio, so I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I've been on the management end, and I'm a drummer as well. So I need this one tom to sound different.
Yeah.
Mic everything up.
Yep.
I have a buddy of mine. In fact, I spoke to him this morning. A pleasant call from Australia. He came out of Hollywood, and he got his start with his family. They were the ones that created Jazzercise. Remember back in the late 70s, early 80s? Yeah. And that's where he got his chops.
Jane Fonda.
Yeah.
She made it popular.
Well, and then he did a lot of editing work at 9/11 Museum in New York. He said, of all the movies that I've done and everything like that, that was my most proud work that I've ever done. But, the story about what got him into it was like pretty much the same, all his buddies, they still they still, hang out together.
Yeah.
Worldwide, they'll pick up the phone, and next thing you know, you have a bunch of sound guys or, video guys meeting up in Chicago, doing something stupid, but the roads that it takes you down, that when I could see video and sound that you're basically the lifeline of an artist, somewhat. They got the skill out there.
Well, they got it. They got to trust their engineers. But the problem is everybody and their brother became an audio guy, or everybody and their brother became an editor, or everybody and their brother became. It's a flooded industry right now.
You have to stand out.
I can literally throw a rock and probably hit 3 or 4 camera guys, or a couple audio guys, or a couple of editors. So they think they're editors, right? I mean, I'm from the world of there's our bells. I actually edited tape to tape. So I edited before computers. Cutting, slicing, putting either video film in or audio film just to make it, re-racking. And I come from a real line of editors. I'm not just one of these guys that learned how to do a computer from YouTube and to get my skill. My skill was literally tape to tape. One of my first jobs ever for a studio was I was a duping engineer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the guys would come in with the masters. I would take those masters. I would duplicate the masters, put the masters in a temperature controlled vault, gave them back the dupes, and that's what they worked from. They never touched the masters. Yeah. So I'm old. I'm old, and that's okay. It's okay. But anyway, so I got into the whole film work, the whole audio side. And we were one of the first 1,000 podcasters ever on iTunes, before YouTube, before Facebook, before MySpace. iTunes is what set the standard. There was a little bit of a audio world with Windows, but they didn't do what iTunes did. So we started off with video with iTunes, and then iTunes said, "Oh, we don't want to do video because we don't want to be the guys that are storing all the product."
I was about to say, it sounds like a lot of storage.
It is, and they learned really quick that that's not what we want to do. That's when they said, "Hey, look, give us the audios." I mean, you know why they call a podcast a podcast?
No, please.
Okay, so a podcast came from the fact that iTunes wanted you to download the audio on their iPods. And it's stuck. It's never changed words. So it's literally, a podcast has been named because we used our little iPods. And that's why they wanted the audio, because then they could download. I love when I hear people today go, "Well, how many downloads do you have?" I don't know. I don't download. I listen to everything live or streamed from an app. So you can tell people still use terminology that they don't know why they say it. Because if they think they say, "Well, I have this many downloads," well, that don't mean anything to me. How many listeners do you have? How many followers do you have? How many eyeballs or earballs? I love saying the word earballs. How many earballs do you see? That's from a movie. If you know what it is, if you know. If you don't, well, you need to go look it up. But that's how you tell, how popular your podcast is or your TV show. So we use the word podcast because if I don't say podcast, people don't understand what I do. But if I tell people that I produce television shows for web television, they look at me like, "Huh?" And I'm like, so now in the last 4 or 5 years, we've started using the terminology podcast, because then people go, "Oh, I get what you do." Yeah.
Well, a lot of people use vlog too. I've noticed that.
The vlog word is it's very watered down, convoluted. Right? It's just a really mixed up word. Truly what people do is they either make a television show like you're doing right now.
Yeah.
And then we'll take that. And if you want to go into an audio format, we'll give it to you as a podcast. So that way you can put it up on Spotify and Audible and all that kind of stuff. So that way it can be listened to. Preferably, I'm a visual guy. I do listen to a lot of books. I do. I love and I love other podcasts, especially creepy ones or stuff like that. But I'm a visual guy. I want to see it. I want to know what they're talking about. But that's just because I'm super visual.
Well, you have to have something you can interact with.
Mm-hmm.
What is the one that you like right now?
Oh, I like Area 52 TV.
Well, Area 50.
I don't know. I do like Erie Travels podcast. They're actual audio podcasts. They do a video side as well, but I like that spooky side. 411 Studios, they're good for I like the paranormal side, but I'm a nerd, and I've always been a big nerd. Now, I am not a deep dive nerd. I don't have time for that. I don't have the brain pans. I need to learn. I need to keep my information in my brain about what we do here. So I don't really have that time to go and memorize, and I can't take you back years and years on a comic book or a movie. I don't want to, because I just like being the fact that I do. I love them. I love the Star Wars side. I love the Star Trek. I love like if it's a movie, like a Marvel movie. I'm one of those kind of guys that can go in and watch any Marvel movie or any Star Wars movie without sitting there trying to pick it apart because it ain't canon. It's not this. It's not that. I just like it all.
Well, that's really kind of like what I am too. You know, whenever I watch a Marvel movie, now, mind you, if I rewatch it, I might pick something out or whatever.
About the 45th time, you start doing
Yeah,
that.
you start looking for little things like, oh, that's why he did that. And you go like, I remember that from 3 other movies. Yeah. And good storytellers really know how to plant those Easter eggs to where they just pop up later on. You know, it's funny how that happens.
I pick out the only thing that I truly pick apart is audio. Audio to me is, if your audio's not good, then it's not good, right? But I'll listen to movies and go, wait a minute, this happened. That's a Star Wars theme song that they rewrote for a Marvel's theme song. And I can pick that stuff out.
Yeah.
Yeah. So but that's the only thing that I ever go deep on.
Well, the funny thing is it's amazing when you have fans that are making movies. You know, Quentin Tarantino is probably one of the biggest one. Mike White. Are you familiar with White Lotus?
Yeah.
Okay. So the guy who wrote and directed White Lotus, he wrote a little movie called School of Rock as well. And he starred in it as well. But in the movie, he has all these little throwbacks,
little tidbits,
little
Easter eggs is what we call them.
Well, you know, for example, season 3 of White Lotus, one of the main characters is played by a guy who was in Harry Potter. And he goes, stupid Weasleys. Yeah, but if you didn't know,
it was an Easter egg. That's
right. They had the woman who was in Iron Man as a reporter that, you know, they're in Thailand. And whenever she's walking on the screen, they're playing in the Siamese, Thailand's, you know, language, Iron Man. I'm going like, I see what you're doing there. And to me, stuff like that is what I live for. You know, the funny thing is, you know, I'm gonna go off a little rabbit hole right here, is when, you know, I'm remarried now, but my first marriage ended. My daughter and I just sat there and watched movies all day long, to the point where now, like when she was in high school, she did a project, and the project, she chose it to be about movies. And she said, because of my dad, I have the most amazing movie taste from everything. And then now she is movie reviewing for the Times Free Press, you know, which made me proud. Her professor at UTC said, tell your dad he did something right with you, you know.
You don't hear that much from a professor. I'm just saying.
You know, maybe I was on the phone with her right before I came into the studio, and we were talking about movies, and she is, you know, how they say the student far passes up the master. She is down to, like, we'll watch a movie, she'll tell me who their director of photography is. She'll tell me who edited it. She's going like, I don't like the way they edit because they're doing this. And I'm going like, wow, you know, you take it into a level where, you know.
Yep. And that's a lot of the nerd world. I never go to see a nerd movie when I know there's going to be a lot of nerd world. Because those people get right out rude, picky, and literally they start saying stuff during the movie. So I give everything like a couple of weeks, and then I will go watch it. So
Yeah.
that way I don't get I'm not looking for anybody else's opinion, nor do I want to hear their opinion.
So that's kind of how she is now. And she likes to go watch at an IMAX. The bigger the screen, the better.
I think you lose. I as much as IMAX is cool,
Yeah.
I'm just going to say, I think you lose.
Really?
Yep. Because you can't take it all in visually. You can't. It's
Whip me right.
impossible.
Whip me right.
Because of the way the IMAX is, your focus can't be the whole thing. That's why I like I don't want a small screen, but I want like a big screen right in front of me. So visually, I can see everything that I'm supposed to see. IMAX has a tendency to get it out there. Now, you're right. It is cool. IMAX is super cool, but you lose visual. Now you've got to figure out. Now you got to turn your head and go. It's just like, remember on the when Iron Man Tony Stark gets on with the carrier again. It's one of the Marvel movies. He goes,
Whip me right.
how does he do this? He has to keep turning his head, right? So
Yeah.
same thing. IMAX, you're all over the place. Give it to me in the front. Once I like it there, then I'll go see IMAX because I already know what I'm looking for. I already know what I'm looking at, and then I'll take that experience in. I'm not saying it's not a good thing. To me, it's distracting. I want to be able to watch it straight on. So
I totally get it. Everybody has what they like.
Yep,
And,
exactly.
I'm going to circle back onto small business, because we went off that rabbit trail
sorry.
of movies.
It's easy to
fun.
rabbit hole.
Well, we both love movies. That's how it goes. But, when you're talking about small business, one thing that I've noticed, especially start doing this show, is the
Whip me
show
right.
becomes a tool that
Yes.
should be in everyone's
right.
toolbox.
Mhm.
So,
Whip me right.
talking to people
Whip
can
me
be
right.
easy. It could be hard. But the thing is,
Whip me right.
at first conversation is always the toughest.
Mhm.
So doing a TV show for me
Mhm.
is making everyone feel comfortable with you.
Exactly.
They know you automatically. They feel like, well, I've seen Ed, I've seen John, or anyone who does business or does a show. They could go in there and go like, well, here's a little introduction. Get this out the way. You watch at your speed, at your convenience, and let's reconvene.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, it makes it where we used to call
Whip me right.
these handshake videos. I produced a show in Florida called My Chamber TV, and this was probably the best example that I can give. So the chamber would come in, we would interview 4 businesses out of that chamber plus the chamber itself, right? And the chamber is always telling us what's going on, whole 9 yards. Well, those
Whip me
4
right.
businesses
Whip me
now have a
right.
handshake video.
Whip
And
me right.
people, and when, because they would buy their video and we would give it to them and they would use it on their social medias and whatever. But when you're trying to introduce yourself to somebody that's never met you,
Whip
and
me
you
right.
can say to them, hey, let's set an appointment up.
Whip
I'm
me
going to
right.
send you a link to a video. I want you to watch this video.
Whip me right. Whip
And
me
then
right.
people go, what is it? Well, I did an interview with a guy and this, but it's a good introduction to what we do. And next thing you know, that client comes into your office, is sitting down, has watched that video. Now they have it's a hot connection, not a cold connection. So now they know who you are, what you do, why you do it, and
Whip me
they
right.
feel more comfortable with you. They feel like they know you.
Well, they get a lot of the FAQs out the way, that you don't have to worry about
Right.
small talk. I used to do training in the mobile industry, and the one thing I revamped the training was I wanted 3 people on the call that are for training. They're going like, why 3? I said, I want a salesperson, not an engineer, doing the training. I want them to teach people how to sell it, how to get past a gatekeeper.
Yep.
I want one person in the chat of this Zoom, to answer any questions. They go, well, what about the third person? I want someone that no one knows. They're going like, what do you mean? I want them to ask stupid questions. I want them to think of a question. And if someone asks that question, somebody might go like, that's a stupid question. I want someone to ask them.
Yep.
So that way, everybody else go like, well, that's out the way. I'm going to sound smart compared to that guy. And it was one of the most successful trainings ever. And I think this format with it, doing
Well, So Area 52, before we were Area 52, we were Tampa Bay Multimedia. Tampa Bay Multimedia we were working heavy with the hair industry. Oh, we got not much time. We worked in the hair industry and we were showing them, this is before Zoom, Skype, none of that existed, right? But we could stream video. So we were able to have these hair industry guys come on with a brand new product that they needed to get out across the country. The same exact thing. They would come on, we would film it. They would have a whole bunch of people on the internet, on their chats to answer questions, and all those people out there watching could ask questions, and then the guy would answer it live.
Mm-hmm.
And they just thought that was the bomb, which it was. And we do that again. We still do that now. I have other clients in my other studios in Florida that actually work with other companies that do this once a year, and they'll do a big training.
Wet me right.
Well, I hope that this is the beginning of a series of us interviewing, me interviewing you, because, there's so much stuff that we could touch on.
Yeah.
I love it. In fact, whenever I title this podcast, it's going to be part 1. Yeah.
I'm not sure people want to hear me over and over.
Well,
again.
but the beautiful thing, there's so many things I want to find out more about. The fact Florida, you have studios, different places. We could, that would take us down so many different paths that we'd be here for a couple hours easily talking.
Right.
And just the fact that we're both fans of what you do and, in general, I think it'd be great. But right now, if somebody was looking for Area 52, where would they find it?
Area52tv.com or area52mediagroup.com. Either one of those are available. We're on social media, but I don't like social media. I just use it because I have to. It's a necessary evil. Everything we do is we drive back to the website. And so if you go there and you can get there's emails, there's phone numbers. All you got to do is just go in there, type it, and just get a hold of us.
Oh, that's awesome.
And we're always looking for brand new shows. Always. I don't just do interviews for businesses, because we do have a couple of shows, but we literally are always looking for brand new shows.
All right. So here's the pitch.
Yeah.
I want to do a show about paint drying every week, though. We
do that already with Truly Talk. No, I'm just kidding. I'm the mean guy. No, you have to have good content. I mean, there are industries that are not good for shows.
Yep.
And there are industries that are great for shows.
Well, that leaves us off to where we're going to be closing up here. If you're watching this podcast, click like, subscribe. If you're seeing it on any kind of social media, go to talktruly.com. It'll take you directly to our YouTube channel where you can like and subscribe. My name is Ed. Thank you, John. And you have an amazing day. See you next time.